This lady already has a big Lamborghini collection, but she does need a four-seater from time to time and maybe even an off-roader. So she's bought herself this, the Lamborghini Urus, or in game it's known as the Pegassi Toros. I think she's fooling herself a little because the way this car's parked is the nearest it will ever get to any off-roading. Anyway, welcome back to the channel and this series where we take one of the cars from my garages, showcase it, drive it and give it a rating. I've modelled mine on the graphite capsule version that's available for Lamborghini. I thought it looked rather stunning with this dark grey sort of black satin paintwork and all the lime detailing. If you've been looking at the pictures and the car, you'll notice there are a few differences. The back windows are from the Audi Q8, so they're a bit big, and the rear lights from the Aventador, so slightly the wrong shape. But the real disappointment is those wheel arches, which are such a distinctive shape on the real car, but are simply round on the GTA model. So how does it drive? Well, that's a bit of a blow. It's gone wrong on the first corner, so we do get a bit more off-roading, at which it seems to be quite adept. So first impressions, it doesn't corner quite as well as you might hope, and of course that's because it's a very big and heavy SUV. The second impression is the noise and the speed. This car, just like the real life counterpart, is very, very quick in a straight line. There's no doubt about it. It's as quick as many of the supercars in the game. The other thing you notice as you start to drive around the streets is the braking distance. It does take quite a long time to brake. Of course, it's a very big vehicle. Some of those are downsides, and I mean they are downsides, but overall the car is actually quite a lot of fun to hustle through the streets. It may not be the quickest round the corners. It also seems to be a bit deflected, just like that with all the bumps in the road. But you can't drive a supercar every day, and it is fun. When I do these showcases, I don't like to bang the cars into things and scratch them, and you have to see a scratch car from scene to scene. But I soon realised with this car that if I tried that, I was going to be re-recording and re-recording and re-recording because it is just big and heavy, and unfortunately does make the odd interface with pretty much everything on the map, to be honest. As always, some laps of the track freed up from the pedestrians and the NPC drivers is the way to really test these cars. I did 12 laps in total, a 7 and a 5 on this car because it took me quite a while to be able to put a half decent lap in. First I had to learn the braking distances, which are quite a bit longer than you might expect. Secondly, I had to learn to keep the speed down just a little bit in the corners, not that much, but again otherwise the thing was all over the place. I had to be careful with the bumps because the car is deflected by bumps. Not as much as some cars. If you remember that Italia RSX, it was all over the road. It's not like that, but it can be pushed around the place a little bit. However, of course, the straight line speed is very, very good on the car, which would always help it drag itself up each straight rather quickly and make up lost time. This is the most competitive SUV in the SUV racing class, so if you want to race, you're going to have one of these anyway. My lap, as you can see from the top, was in the order of 57 seconds, about 5 seconds slower, that's all, than the fastest supercars in the game, so actually it is pretty creditable once you can really get a hang of the car. To get your Toros as close as possible to the real Urus, then these are the modifications that I chose. The Shark diffuser gives some similar shapes to the real Lamborghini diffuser. It's a similar story with the carbon luxury grille. Of course you want xenon lights, and then the stripped hood, which is the plainest hood, is the correct match. For the primary colour I went with a matte grey, and that is then mixed with a dark steel pearlescent. If you don't know how to achieve this satin effect on the paintwork, then I'll put a video in the top right, and at the end of the video I show you the method. For the secondary I went with a lime green. I think you could go metallic or not. And for the interior I just chose lime green again for the stitching. I went primary extended skirt. Now for the spoilers, the stock spoilers, both upper and lower, I think look the best. I went for a slightly bigger lower spoiler to help with traction. But now looking at the indicator I see nothing for the traction bar, so perhaps you need to research which spoiler has to be extended for traction, because I may have got that wrong. I like it on competition suspension, but I don't for 1 minute believe that is correct. Really it should be somewhat higher, probably stock. If you want a coloured wheel rim like I have, there's very few choices in the game, and they are the carbon wheels in the high-end category. In this case pick the carbon solar and a lime green paint. And of course you want some privacy glass. If I didn't show it, it means it was simply stock, and on the car you've been looking at, all the performance parts are at maximum. So to rate the car, starting with looks, 3 stars for looks is all I'm going to give this car. And it's not the slightly different glass house, the different tail lights, or even the other few small changes to the car. It is, as I mentioned before, those wheel arches. They're so distinctive on the Urus. They're not on here, and I think that does take away a lot from the looks of the car. In most circumstances, I would have given the car another 3 stars for the driving. It's very quick, but as we've seen, it's heavy, it takes a while to brake, etc. However, it's the fastest SUV in the class according to Bruffy's testing, and as such that earns it an extra star, so I give the car 4 stars for driving. Now, value for money, this is an old car in the game. That's why it doesn't look so much like an Urus, because back then they were a little scared, I think, to get too close to the detailing on any car. But it also means it has the pricing from a few years ago, and it's barely $500,000. Now that's not a lot to pay for a car which is still the fastest in its particular racing class, and that alone I think makes it a 5-star car. So in summary, it's a fast car that doesn't handle that well, that doesn't look that much like the car that it's based on, but it's the fastest in its class, it's not hugely expensive, and it may well be what you need to pad out your 8, 9 or 10 car Lamborghini collection. This video was a subscriber request, and to be honest I find it a lot more fun to do cars that other people have made me choose rather than me always choosing my favourites. So if there's a car you'd like me to cover in this series, please do let me know down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching.